What's up, guys, and welcome back to the G-Red Show. I'm G-Red. We all know the news. We all know what we're talking about. Xavi is out. Hansi Flick is in. We're going to touch on the ins and outs of all of this, what we can expect from Barcelona moving forward under Flick, and then what happened, what went wrong with Xavi, and then there's some big news about Ronald Araujo I want to touch on, plus a couple more things I want to cover as well. But first, we got to touch on what went wrong with Xavi and what we can expect from Barcelona under Hansi Flick. So I will preface, I do feel for Xavi to an extent. He coached at, El Sadd for like 2 seasons. I honestly, I don't know anything about that. What club that is, where, I mean, I assume it's got to be like over in the Middle East or something. But this was his first time coaching at the highest of level. And it's not only at a high level, it's Barcelona, one of the most coveted roles in the world, one of the biggest and most high-profile clubs in any sport, really. And he doesn't really have any top-tier managerial experience. So from that standpoint alone, I feel like you couldn't have set the bar that high for him, especially with some of the players they already had. I really don't know what the plan was long-term for Xavi. If the plan was for him to be here for like 2 seasons, and then for them to find a replacement if he was supposed to be here for the long run, I don't really know. But I can't say it wasn't a complete unsuccessful experience under Xavi. I mean, they did win La Liga last year, and they won the Super Cup. They beat Real Madrid a couple times last year. But at the end of the day, I think it is the right call. But this whole saga has made Barcelona look a little unprofessional. The Xavi, I'm leaving during the middle of the season. And then, I think I'm going to stay because we're having a good run. I assume that's why, because they had a chance to make it to the semifinal. And then after they lost to PSG, everything went back downhill. Xavi also has a bad temper. He's getting red cards. He's kicking those signs. What was it, like the PSG match? He kicked that like stand or the sign at the center of the field over. And he, like, dude, you're 42 or something. Like, why are you acting like that? He kind of embarrasses himself sometimes. He acts like very unprofessional. He has a temper. You're not seeing these world-class managers do that. And then Barcelona, they back Xavi the last few weeks, and then he says something in a press conference. Then they're like, we're going to fire him. And then the day after, Laporta's all hugging Xavi. Everything is fine. We want to continue with Xavi. And then all of a sudden, he's fired. The whole saga was kind of unprofessional. But I will say I'm extremely excited that Barcelona, they have a real manager now. You can look at it one of two ways. His most recent stint was with the German national team from 2021 to 2023. And to be honest, it was extremely unsuccessful. I think out of like 23 matches or so under him, they only won 12 matches. Didn't make it out of the group stage in the World Cup. And they had a great squad too. It's not like they didn't have a good squad. So again, I know it's a little different than clubs, so I'm not too fixated on that. Before that, he coached at Bayern from 2019 to 2021. They won the treble in 2020, the Champions League. Lewandowski, his potential Ballon d'Or winning season he should have won. So this is what's interesting. German managers and a lot of successful German teams, what's great about them is they're always well coached, they're well disciplined, they work really hard. Tactically, they're great, and I love the press and their counterattacking football. I think he's going to bring that to Barcelona and change up this slower style of sideways and backwards passing, this tiki-taka, like, let's just keep possession for 70% of the game. Like, no, you need to get the ball because you have great dribblers, and you have speed, you have talent. Pedri, Frankie de Jong, Xavi, Rafinha, they're all skilled, they're all good with the ball. Get the ball, counterattack, pass, go towards the net. I think he's going to really implement this type of attacking minded and high press type of football, which Barcelona desperately needs. And on top of that, I think he knows what to do with Lewandowski. I know he's a couple years older than he was in 2020, but he's still in shape. He moves well, and he can still finish. So as much as we criticize Lewandowski, he's got a bad attitude. He wasn't as successful this season. I will say I think he's not totally adjusted and used to this style of play. He's used to playing with some of the best players in the world, like Thomas Muller for most of his successful career at Bayern Munich. He's not playing with all those world-class players that he had at Bayern with Barcelona. He's playing with Lamine Yamal. He's playing with Ferran Torres and Rafinha. Again, nothing against Lamine Yamal. He's arguably their best player, but he's extremely young. Ferran Torres and Rafinha, they're younger than him. They're not as good. There's other players that come on. He's just not used to it. And I think a lot of the reason of him getting upset is the lack of play Barcelona does and how his players aren't able to support him in the way that he wants. So I think this could be huge. So let me know if you think Lewandowski is more successful next season with Flick coming to Barcelona, because he knows how he plays. I do think if Barcelona makes even 2 of the signings, hypothetically, if they bring in Kimmich and like Nico Williams, or if they can bring in like Kimmich and Bernardo Silva, that's going to be huge with the new manager. I actually think Barcelona is going to be in a really good spot next year, and I think they're going to be good enough. Let's just say they play Real Madrid 3 times. I think they'll beat them at least once. If you can beat Real Madrid once, you can at least come within 5 points of Real Madrid in La Liga. And then if you can win either the Copa del Rey or the Super Cup from a domestic standpoint, I'm happy with that. I think Real Madrid's win the Champions League. They're going to be coming off the Champions League with, in my opinion, the best manager in the world right now, him and Pep. And then Mbappe going to Real Madrid, I think it's like a no-brainer that they're going to win La Liga, even though they lost Kroos. And I do think their midfield's going to struggle for a little while because he is, the main experienced person and captain of the midfield that played most of the matches. Modric is significantly older, and he's going to come off the bench and not play as much, kind of how he was this season. So from a midfielding standpoint, I think Real Madrid isn't going to be able to dominate in that area as much, but I think everything else is going to be fine. So I think Barcelona will be able to compete with them well. I just don't think they're going to be as consistent as them enough to win La Liga. And then I hope Barcelona can at least make the quarterfinals again, hopefully the semifinal. With the new manager, I know it's a lot that's going to change, and we still have to see who's leaving the club, who's going to be brought in. But from assuming if we brought in, 2 of those players that I mentioned with the new manager, and assuming we don't lose many good players, I think it's possible for Barcelona to have a successful season. So let me know what your thoughts are and expectations are for next season. So last we have Ronald Araujo. We got to touch on this. I'm going to pull this up really quick. So this was from a source, and it says Araujo is grateful to Barcelona, but he may opt for another club soon. He was affected by what happened in the PSG game and also Gundogan's statements. At the club, no one hides that to make big signings this summer, someone has to leave for big money. Again, it's one mistake. I think it's crazy for Barcelona to sell him for the one mistake. Now, I will say that one mistake, if he doesn't make that mistake, they're in the semifinal. I personally think they beat Dortmund. Am I going to be a little biased because I like Barcelona? Yes. I do think they beat Dortmund. We potentially should be awaiting Real Madrid for an El Clasico Champions League final, and that'd be huge for Barcelona. So yeah, his mistake, he deserves to be criticized for his mistake because it was a stupid mistake. And I honestly think at times, I don't know the professional way to say this, but mentally it is not all there. He makes some very questionable decisions. Despite him being a very solid center back for a lot of the times, he's big, fast, strong. At times, he dribbles the ball up on the counterattack, and it helps us a lot. He's good on corners because he's tall, but I don't want to have... Look, there's not one person in the club. There's a couple, I guess, like Lamine Yamal. You can't touch him. I would never get rid of Xavi. Probably Cabarsi as well, but there's a couple players you don't want to lose, but him, I mean, he's young, so you want to keep him, but if he's going to act like this and get all defensive and be all upset, leave. Because right now, Chelsea apparently offered $100 million for Ronald Araujo. $100 million. Honestly, I don't want to say you have to take that, but if you take that, $100 million, and then you can sell Ferran Torres, get rid of like Marcos Alonso, Inigo Martinez. You might even be able to keep Frankie de Jong and Rafinha at that point, sign Kimmich, sign Nico Williams, and find a way to bring in Bernardo Silva. I mean, I think that's actually relatively feasible. And the reports I'm hearing now is Barcelona could potentially get Kimmich for around $40 million. I mean, $100 million for Araujo, $40 million for Kimmich. And then you have $60 million left. You sign Bernardo Silva for $50 or $60 million, or Nico Williams for like $50 million. You still have money left over if you're able to get him for that price. So if Ronald Araujo is going to act this way and act like, woe is me, and he's going to act all upset when, bro, it's your fault that Barcelona did not make it farther in the Champions League. It's 100% his fault. I mean, yes, from a tactics standpoint, it should have been better. If Real Madrid, if this happened to them and they were still leading by 2 goals, they still would have won the match. 100%. They would have won the match because Ancelotti would have made sure that they did not get scored on once. He would have had a perfect formation. He would have had the right players in the right spots. Tactically, the players would have still acted like they wanted to play and be there and win. Barcelona gave up. They didn't look like they wanted to be there. They subbed off Lamine Yamal, poor tactics, and then they just got scored on left and right. It was ridiculous. So, I blame Xavi, I blame Araujo, but it's Araujo's fault. I mean, again, do we want him to leave? No, but we don't need him. At the end of the day, it's going to suck, but I'm fine with Pau Cubarsí and Koundé. I like Koundé. I even like Koundé as a right back. I think if he can be more attacking, he'd be a great option for a right back. And you have Christensen. I would keep Christensen. I like Christensen. I like him as a holding midfielder at times. He's probably okay enough where we can swap him in as a center back too and rotate him between those two positions. I don't think it's the end of the world if you lose Araujo. And if this happens, so be it. Barcelona will be able to find a way without Araujo. It's not the end of the world. And if he's going to act like this, let's get rid of him. Do I want to? No. But it's not the end of the world. Xavi, Simons, Williams, Kimmich, and Bernardo Silva. You can probably sign 2 of those players. Well, Xavi Simons might have to be on loan, but you could sign probably 2 of those players with that money. Let me know who you guys would choose. And with Barcelona's new Nike deal potentially in place, they could be making, I think, over $110 million per season. And I think they'd get over $100 million sign-on bonus too. So this could be good for Barcelona. They'll be able to play in the Camp Nou, I think, next season sometime. So things are looking up for Barcelona from a financial standpoint if they make the right sales, plus the revenue they're going to make from the Camp Nou. And then with Flick coming, I'm excited. I'm extremely excited for next season. I don't have high expectations, but I'm almost positive Barcelona will win 1 trophy, whether it's the Copa del Rey or the Super Cup. Maybe La Liga. I'm not expecting it, but it could happen. You never know. I'm excited. What are your thoughts and expectations about next season? And if you guys made it this far in the video, and if you like my channel, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys back here next time on the G Retro.